the summer promotion tournament, Quantic versus, yes, we're going to get this live.
Yeah.
We're going to get it.
Absolutely.
Can Astropoke make it happen? And can they beat who is considered the dark horse?
Yeah, and scouting Team Astropoke might have actually been pretty difficult because in all of their qualifiers, they were actually playing different positions because Newbert and Remstars have essentially swapped. They used to be jungle and mid, whereas Remstars was the mid laner. Now Remstars is the jungle, and Newbert used to be a jungler. Now he's playing mid. So getting their champion pools down is actually a little tricky.
It's kind of almost the same thing on the other side, too, because Hai used to jungle. Now he's in the mid, so it's kind of like mirrored.
That's actually really funny because we saw in the Quantic video the only person on Quantic to stay in the same position was Lemon Nation.
Right.
Hai wanted to be the mid lane shot caller as opposed to a shot caller in the jungle. And Balls is one of those guys who actually just plays absolutely anything.
Yeah, so we see as we look at the bans now, the global presence being taken out with Twisted Fate and Shen, Jarvan, so and Elise, some jungler focus there, and the Zyra as well. In your homework done, is that really a Zyra support we're seeing or a main for a mid that's being taken away?
I'm pretty sure that's the Zyra support they're taking away.
Just that Lemon Nation.
Generally played.
Nidus Remain, right.
Nidus Remain generally played a whole bunch of Zyra. And you can see Quantic's actually getting the picks that they seem like they want almost right away.
Yeah.
They first picked the Zac without much hesitation, and that was an extremely fast 2 and 3 pick on Ezreal and Kha'Zix. They're really just trying to make sure that they don't get out-kited because they're already picking into, right now, a Janna team, which is if you're running people that essentially have to run to people, it's very difficult. You want people who can jump to people if you're against Janna.
So looking at this team right now, it looks like they do have that jump team. What else could they bring out to complement that? Or can they actually pull something for the backline now?
Yeah, it really depends on how much they want to protect Sneaky Castro as an AD carry and where they want Lemon Nation to be at. Like, Sona is obviously...
Whoa.
They're fast. They're fast at picking this. Sona is obviously something where they want to get the lockdown, and a lot of times if you're playing against a less experienced team and you really just want to crush them down and make sure the game's over fast, you can get farmed up, group up early, and if you bring enough crowd control like Quantic Gaming has right here, they would essentially be going for a quick victory.
So a team like Astropoke brings to the table here is a lot of displacement back and forth. Have you seen in your experience, does that hurt or help a team?
Well, this is a great counter composition to what Quantic's essentially trying to pull off because Janna and Gragas throwing stuff at Kennen and knocking him out. Good luck getting your slicing Maelstrom off, which is Kennen's ultimate, or even if you're Zac. Zac has, like, in this patch, 70% tenacity during his Let's Bounce ultimate, so you can't really crowd control him when he's coming in, but you can knock him away. Tenacity doesn't affect knockaways or knockups. So that's actually some strong picks of Gragas and Janna against the heavy dive in from Quantic.
So we see that Nasus has a pretty formidable early jungle, but we've seen Zac more in the top lane. How is he going to fare now in the jungle versus Nasus in that early game?
Yeah, I mean, Nasus hasn't been known for his dominating jungle presence.
Right.
He's mainly known for his teamfight presence, Wither, which is actually nerfed in this patch because we're on the 3.6 patch, which is the same as that everyone's been playing on live. So its attack speed reduction is half as much as the movement speed slow. It's still a pretty significant amount, but it's not the range stun that all the pros were talking about before. So that jungle matchup, I think, is actually farm heavy for Nasus, and Meteos is going to be looking to make a lot of ganks, probably with a max E build.
And looking at those lanes, we do see not really much crowd control for any of those lanes to pull the ganks off. What's the best way for a Zac to really come into a lane where you're not seeing that crowd control?
Surprisingly enough, Zac just jumps. Like he
doesn't matter where it comes from.
Once he gets a few ranks into his elastic slingshot, he can just get on a person and apply his own crowd control. Obviously, it's aided a little bit if Hai could get like his passive slow off as Kha'Zix, or if Balls could land a Kennen stun early on. But for the most part, just jump on him. All
right, ladies and gentlemen, here we are, Rivington III, Joshua Leesman bringing you your first summer promotion tournament game of the summer promotion tournament. This split is about to happen, and our teams are trying to get in. We have the team Astropoke versus Quantic now going head-to-head. Astropoke is going to be on the purple, Quantic on the blue side. And as I look at these teams, they're before 6, there's hardly, I'd say, zero crowd control coming in. Really, hard crowd control.
Yeah, especially if you look at Team Astropoke, like they're never going to have a stun on their team. There's not a single lockdown.
No.
They have slows and knockaways, a lot of displacement, but not stuns. And looking at these level 1s, it's actually a fair amount of aggression coming up from Quantic. You'd expect them to play fairly safe because they consider themselves the favorite in this one, and they know it's a best of 3. If they lose this one, then they're not making it in the next split. And they're expecting to make it in, so they can't take these level 1s lightly. They're actually putting down a lot more wards than Team Astropoke, so we'll see if that ends up getting any returns for them.
We'll see. A lot of these challenger teams do state that they like to have more buff control than usual. It's a factor that they play into the game that makes their early game much stronger, but it would make any game early, or any early game, much stronger. So we'll see if they can pull it off and if it can be defended by Team Astral Poke. The wards are there, so they know they're all focusing the blue side, and they choose to not go in again, Jap.
That was actually a really clever pink ward by Nidus Remain there from his Janna. They, since Team Astral Poke had put all of their people in the red side jungle, the only thing they wanted to make sure is there was no vision control in their blue side jungle, so they actually used the pink ward to take a chance of trying to clear out a ward. And luckily they found it. They essentially guessed right that that's where Quantic had went.
And even with the elixir change here, we didn't see it much in the end of the LCS there, but they are still going red elixir for mid Kha'Zix and Balls and Kennen on the top lane, who may still be going AP in the end.
Yeah, we got to keep in mind that these are expensive red elixirs now. 350 gold dumped in right at the start of the game, up from 250, so that means they can only have 3 health potions with it, as opposed to the previous 6 that you were able to bring. So if there's any harass that is able to get poked down onto high in the top lane, or Balls in the bottom lane, since they're both the guys with these red elixirs, it could potentially make them pay, since there's no red elixir openings over on Team Astral Poke.
Right, and the 2.5 minutes here definitely making note. The supports and ADs have moved this to mid, which we do see, you know, kind of accelerates the control for buffs and aggression in the first place.
And they're counteracting each other by both going mid. Neither of these guys want to really line up in any of the 2v2 lanes. It's a little bit strange. I mean, Sneaky Castro and Lemon Nation are seemingly a strong lane. I mean, you got to keep in mind, Lemon Nation is the #1 solo queue challenger player in the game, and Sneaky Castro is #9. So, like, this is a very high-skill individual matchup in the mid lane. It's just a matter of how well they synergize.
You can see both supports just absolutely emptying the mana bars to get the poke in and leave the AD carries to farm. I always say, you know, supports win the lane harder than the AD carries, just right-clicking, and you're seeing it happen there. Back and forth in the top lane, a level 3 to 2, and he's still getting pushed off here. That's probably why Remstar's in the back.
And a lot of the time when you play Kha'Zix, especially if you're starting with the red elixir, they like to all in at either level 2 or 3, so that's why Remstars was up in that top lane brush. But something about the way Anxiety Law must have been playing made Ty not want to just go in, because he knows against a Rejuve bead Rumble, like, Kha'Zix would win that all in and he'd be able to get that trade, but he just is playing conservatively, doesn't have any wards, doesn't want to go past his safety zone, and is actually content just farming even with that red elixir start.
It looks like the health is in the favor of Lemon Nation here, but Remstars looks to make a move mid. There's been a lot of pressure back and forth. They don't have the right ward to see him here. It's too far into the Wraith side, so he will to the back.
And with this one, you're going to see Lemon Nation actually getting withered. Here comes the gank.
And there they are going in onto Lemon Nation. His mana low, so he's not going to be able to do much to get out of this. He did not have the speed aura up, but he still makes it out. So they're clean. No summoner spells. Or actually, he used both summoner spells, I should say, to get out of that one.
And this is actually an interesting jungle by Remstar on Nasus, because a lot of times Nasus will sit in lanes and actually just take a bunch of lane farm before he can get farmed up for the jungle. He is a farm jungler on Nasus, or you just go and push lanes, but because Remstars has spent so much time camping waves, he has a risk of actually falling behind and becoming a little bit weak.
Still haven't seen any backs yet for these guys, so we'll have to see what items they decide to come out with. It's just going to be armor and boots coming in for Zac, so Meteos looks to be going for getting around the jungle faster and back into the lanes. Like you said, he's just going to want to just jump into the lanes from anywhere.
And Zac has a ton of sustain in the jungle. Essentially, anytime Zac is under 99% health, if he's spamming all his abilities, since you lose 4% current health for doing damage with an ability, but gain 4% max health for picking up a little bloblet, you heal in the jungle, as long as for whatever damage you're taking, which is why he's been able to go for the boots before finishing a Spirit Stone and be okay with it.
So what do we have here? It looks like Team Astral Poke wants to make a move, and they're going to start switching it up again.
They need to make a move because they realize they're actually losing these lanes a little bit. You can already see the gold is 700 different in the favor of Quantic, and I have a feeling since Kennen, as far as I can tell, was doing so well in that lane, 44 minion kills, they're really just trying to send 2 people down there saying, like, Gragas could not deal with this whatsoever. We have to get out of the situation.
They see it right away, and it looks like it is going to be Balls heading back towards mid. They're going to get these guys to rotate down to the bottom. Probably won't lose much time with that speed from Sona anyways, and it's actually just going to be Lemon Nation hugging the turret by himself as Sneaky gets his first buy-in.
Yeah, so even just to get back to that mid lane again with Balls coming up against Nubert, you can see Tear of the Goddess start on Gragas is actually not something we see that frequently. A lot of Gragases would start with Doran's rings, maybe even a Seeker's Arm Guard if they're against a heavy AD team, but against Kennen here, going with that Tear, like, he's got to be super, super passive, and this leaves the potential for Balls to actually punish him with any harass he gets down, because that's a very squishy Gragas.
What kind of build, that tier build, will that give him? Will he look for the long, sustained fights in the end of the game?
It's essentially just him going totally safe in mana and giving himself no reliance, or less reliance on blue buff. He will potentially have the mana shield at the end of the game, too, if he gets the Seraphs, but that's not a common Gragas build by any means.
We got High using some regular abilities to get the ultimate out, but he also takes quite a bit of aggression, using that mana bar up to use his ultimate as well. And here comes Remstars to the top.
Yeah, and High's got to be real careful here because he has no mana, just one last proc of the ultimate, and he could very well get aggressed here.
May have enough for jump. He does have the flash. You see the teleport coming in as well on the top side. They're going to put 3 on this. He flashes. The Ignite is down. They go first blood, and it goes over to Anxiety.
All resources burned to be able to get High down there. They need to be able to make this count because they got the kill, but here comes the rest of Quantic. They got Kennen pushing mid lane, Meteos is looking to counter jungle, and Team Master Poke is actually quite low, so they can't even get that turret.
And they're going to start taking down these bots as well. Here's the control that we were talking about a little bit. I think that's actually just going to go to Meteos. He takes it. Good aggression by Team Astro Poke in the bottom lane. This really stops any dragons from happening as well. They went real hard on that engagement.
Yeah. After everything's said and done, that was a successful move, and it only cost them the blue buff because there wasn't a successful enough push in the mid lane for balls, and there's actually a bunch of aggression going down bot.
Summoner's back and forth. There's the jump in. Meteos takes blue. He comes in, and they get a kill around it. One of them goes to elimination as he picks up some cash.
On second thought, their 3-man dive for the top lane enabled Meteos to be able to do that because not only having 3 people up there did allow Meteos to get into the blue, it gave him, and get level 6, it gave him the gank route to be able to surprise Bobby Hankill and Nidus Remain and get that bottom lane double kill.
Well, we were saying that Gragas has the tier, so he kind of preemptively thought that this was going to happen. He's not going to get that blue after all, and they're not going to get the dragon either. You can see Balls feeling very aggressive here. He knows the damage isn't there from the tier, and he just goes right at him.
And even with the tier, Newbert still ran out of mana. So it's just a matter of Balls having control over him in general. 65 to 45 in that lane, still hasn't had to consume his red elixir, and they got to be feeling pretty good because they just got the double kill bottom where they really wanted it, and they took Dragon control.
Elder Lizard already picked up onto Ezreal, first item built there, and I believe it's one of the first core items really coming out for anybody, and really Elimination picking up the Sightstone as well, so the control already going to snowball a little bit from that bottom lane.
And we'll see if that Spirit of the Lizard Elder actually pays off for Sneaky Castro. This is the ever-popularizing blue build that a lot of Ezreals go, where they just build blue items. So he's got the Spirit of the Elder Lizard. The final amount of these items is you eventually get the Iceborne Gauntlets as well, a Myr Mana, and the Last Whisper. And then you cheat and get like a Blade of the Ruined King because it's like close to blue, but you try to finish off your blue boots.
Got a blue hue.
With the cooldown boots. It's actually a successful Ezreal build if you can keep your distance and if you can get ahead. And since Sneaky Castro is already a little bit ahead, this is his move.
All right, we'll have to see what happens. So in this top lane, Anxiety, 1 kill on a Rumble. Rumble does very well with the killing lane. He can carry that for himself. Should they be putting more focus on this lane? Do you think they're doing all right?
Well, because they're taking so much other objectives in the game, it is okay that Rumble's kind of getting going a little bit. Anxiety Lull now has more pressure on him to kind of make things happen. Sometimes because Rumble's base damages are just so high, it's not hugely impactful, but there's Remstars just trying to punish bottom.
Remstars goes in, forces the flash. The Spirit Fire is going to go out, but it looks like it just zones for the rest of this laning phase here. 10 minutes coming up, and we can see the aggression back and forth between each lane.
Yeah, and that actually burned the Ghost and the Ultimate from Remstars, so his threat level is really low throughout this now, which might allow Meteos to do kind of whatever he wants on Zac if he's even coming back into this bottom lane a little bit. And Team Astro Poke's got to be really careful against the blue Ezreal already getting started and the Zac coming in through a ward.
So they're going to see the movement here. Actually, they did see him, but they're still staying quite aggressive. Nidus Remain going to go to ward, but they say we don't even need to. They back off of this, and Meteos is really creating a lot of pressure with that Zac jungle.
It's just a matter of them knowing that the pressure is down from Remstars as well, and because the engagement range and threat level from Meteos is just so high, constantly Team Astro Poke is having to go back to base and shop because they're taking so much harass in these lanes that they're just losing overall map pressure because their people just aren't at their turrets or in lanes.
And I really like what Quantic is doing here. It's kind of like, I think Balls has matched up against everybody so far in the lane. Now he's up top against Anxiety, and High is in middle, just fighting it off. Meteos coming over, they get the jump in for dive buddies, and it looks like he's forced to use the ultimate to get out. Very nice play by both.
That was a really good ultimate by Newbert there, actually, because they because Balls and Meteos were like right on top of each other, actually Balls is just going to go.
He's going right onto him. Like I said, these guys haven't seen each other yet, so they're not expecting the damage that came out. And it looks like Anxiety got caught off guard here. If Balls can get that lightning rush up, he definitely has this in his advantage. He has full energy right now, and it's got to be a very careful play here for Anxiety. Balls does not feel he can get it with that Flame Spitter.
Yeah, Anxiety Law was using the creeps to his advantage there, knowing the Flame Spitter goes through everything, but Balls could only kill him if a Shuriken went through the creep. Yeah. So that's why Anxiety was kind of bullying him back, even though he lost the initial trade. Really good exchange of skill up there in the top lane, but while all that was happening, the turret was taken mid after the gank that didn't quite work out for Quantic.
So we see the Spirit of the Ancient Golem coming out for Meteos here on Zac. How do you feel about that?
I feel like that's a pretty good item.
I feel like it's a great item. He does grow with the HP, so it's a nice item.
Yeah, a lot of people will go the Spirit of the Spectral Wraith on him because they feel like the spell vamp, and since his ability power scaling jungle is adequate. I personally like the Golem Spirit just because he does so much base damage already, and the tank stats plus the tenacity are just really beneficial for him to be able to dive in and make plays.
It looks like High and Balls getting a little aggression here in the top lane. A good stun on Anxiety. High staying into the fight here. Looks like they're going to decide to go in. He gets the True Shot Barrage through the team. They were not expecting that. The teleport is used up top as well. They're just throwing the pressure everywhere.
You could see that that was going to be a bad idea as soon as High decided to start coming back in the brush. And even though Nubert used his teleport to get in there, it just totally backfired. Now they're down the teleport, and they're just getting pressured back off of it. There's 5 Quantic people up top right now, and really Bobby Hankill has to kill this wave as fast as possible and make Quantic pay a little bit for roaming everyone up there this early.
So he's down there. It's 106 to 98, so with pushing that, he's still catching up in CS, so if they can stop that, it's going to be huge. I think he will have that turret to his name, but it's full health, so he's going to be down there for a while, and it looks like they're going to have to set up and figure out what Quantic is going to do after that push. They have map control right now, and Team Astro Poke is trying to get that back.
It's the situation in the game here where Quantic has taken down the 3 outer turrets. And it's for Team Astro Poke, like, what do we do now? We're already getting up pressure. We're already not feeling safe in our lanes. But now we're even farther back. And, like, yes, they were able to get this turret, which helps a little bit. But that bottom laning phase has already ended. Like, Sneaky Castro is going wherever he wants, building more and more blue items. And the snowball may be on. And because they pushed so far through, no turret in the back, they're in big trouble, Riv.
They're, yeah, big trouble if they keep running. Meteos is going to be right in the front of him. Bobby Hankill has to turn left. High is getting one of these. They say, let's bounce. Taking down Nidus Remain. Bobby Hankill still found. It's going to be the Lightning Rush into Slicing Maelstrom. He still has the Shuriken in his hand. Doubles up on the Lightning again with his W, and they finalize another kill. 5-1. Here's Anxiety and Castro now going head-to-head in the top lane. Like I said, everybody's just getting their 1v1 on this game.
And every one of the 1v1s is going to Quantic. Every lane for them seems to be winning. Even Ezreal was up there dueling Anxiety Law, who really needs to be the person who's in position to create action for Team Astro Poke, and it's just not working out that way, as Quantic is doing whatever they want.
And this becomes the scariest part of the game, when you can't even think. The auto attacks feel like abilities from your opponents, and that's really what's happening right now. Lemon Nation taking a few turret shots to boot as they make their way out at just about 15 minutes in the game. Not too many core items are finished, but I think that's because people have a lot of gold and they just haven't backed yet. 1,000 gold in the hands of 3 members of Quantic right now.
And they're going to be able to pick up another dragon. Even though it's smack dab on top of a ward, there's not much Team Astro Poke can do to come down here. Rumble's trapped up in the top lane. They're thinking about roaming down, but they realize it's just another dangerous place to go. And this is just one of those situations where you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Absolutely. You can try it, try to get that experience. But right now, they're playing it safe, and they should. They're down 7,000 gold here 15 minutes into the game, and that's going to start to be core items on a single person for these guys, for Quantic. And that's where the 1v1s are coming out that we've talked about. The Morellonomicon finished on to Nubert, along still with that tier being stacked, so very mana heavy on the Gragas. And when you look across the board to Quantic with the double Manamune already completed, Manamune is actually not a strong item when you first complete it. It becomes a strong item once it transforms into a Mirror Mana. So the fact that Quantic's already invested into 2 of these already, but they're still winning the fights, means that when they do transform, it's just going to be even more trouble for Team Astro Poke. Now, is a chance for that plateau of damage to be the comeback situation here for Team Astro Poke? It would be a small comeback percentage if Team Astro Poke actually had items that could even equal the weak Manamune. Like, it's a pickaxe versus a Spirit of the Elder Lizard and a Manamune. Like, that's not a close comparison. Right. The Morellonomicon plus tier is okay for Gragas, but that's not going to be spiking anybody out just because there's level advantage and tank stats on a lot of people for Quantic right now.
Right, and you rely on that. You expect a Gragas barrel to chunk somebody's health out and whatnot. You'd be able to engage with those, but right now it is really the disengage. What they brought to the table is being used 100% for what it was brought for. We're seeing these take down the turret here in the mid lane. This is going to be the first, second tier turret, but they don't want it to go down. Astropoke still putting down the defense. Meteos waiting off in the wing here, but Astropoke really not putting that many wards down close to them on that side, so could be in the engagement for Quantic.
And I want to see how Quantic handles the situation, because they've always been in the situation where they kind of like feel they're better. When High was play calling back in the first qualifier, he made some very aggressive calls which ended up costing them a game in a base race. How slow are they going to take this, considering they feel like they have control? Are they going to have that killer instinct, or are they going to be too passive because they've made some mistakes in the past?
I think Team Astropoke knows now they can't leave 2 people at a turret. It's got to be 3. It's got to be 4. You can see their health bars are half now, and they haven't even really engaged in the fight. They're just trying to poke back.
Yeah, and it's not working that well because High's poke is just absolutely crazy. Even Sneaky Castro's poke, you land 1 Mystic shot, it'll ping him for the damage plus a bit of true damage burn, and there's just the initiation.
There goes the Zac attack and the slicing Maelstrom. They just start wiping down Team Astropoke. They look for the second tier turret, the inhibitor turret, and possibly the inhibitor jet.
And right there, Quantic had poked down 2 members of Team Astropoke to go back to base, but 2 people were still sticking around, so Anxiety and Lol and Nubert just got crushed because it was a 2v5 dive.
Oh my gosh, that almost took the rest of Nidus Remain's health from Meteos' leap. They're going to be able to get this inhibitor, spawn those super minions. Looks like they're going to back out after this. They may not press it too much. They're going to head out, grab those buffs, maybe even grab a Baron. The fight could be quite easy for them at this point.
It's a 50% gold advantage 17 minutes into the game. This is a Quantic Gaming domination right now. I imagine they're going to all go back, buy even more goodies from the shop. There's already a last Whisper that just got completed by High. They're going to make sure all these lanes get shoved up because both the top lane and the bottom lane are actually kind of pushing towards their base a little bit. Now that Quantic has picked up the inhibitor, all their minions have that 100 extra health to make sure that they're permanently pushing. They could probably just do the same act on the other inhibitor turrets even without the Baron. So we'll see what they decide to do.
Looks like Team Astropoke is trying to keep their warding up, keep that map coverage there, and give themselves an advantage for maybe a 1-2 pick and find a way to an objective. Right now, they're really on their heels, though. The crowd control they didn't bring to the table, obviously not helping them. What way can they itemize to correct that?
Well, first off, to get to the items, they need to get gold. Like, you can itemize all day. It's like, yeah, well, they have a cannon, they want to get some Mercury treads, and maybe an Aegis of the Legion for magic resist, but they can't afford any of those things yet because they haven't been able to farm. They lost the majority of their lanes. You can see every individual on their team has less minion kills than the Quantic member on the other side, and all the dragons and all the turrets are going down. So, like, you can't itemize if you don't have gold rates.
And kind of a walk-in engagement here. They haven't dealt damage, but they have received it. Balls in the top there, just kind of back and forth with Anxiety, and they just have a good amount of poke themselves against really a poke disengaged and poke composition from Team Astropoke. So they're getting around it, and Kennen, a great one to dive to the back line.
And this is one of the most dangerous turrets to hold in the game because you can get taken around the back so easily. If High jumped in there, if Meteos jumped in there, if Balls came in there, they would just lose the team fight. So, I mean, Team Astropoke was out there, but they realized how dangerous that is.
Absolutely. Throwing out missiles. High jumps in, trying to make it look good, but he just backs out without any damage. Still look good, though. 8-1 at 20 minutes in. Like you said, that 10,000 gold lead having big factors here in the form of core items just completely finished. Lanes won for Quantic, and they're pressuring turrets with smiles on their faces. They're really not worried about much. Tap is forced to just farm in their base right now.
And Team Astropoke, as you said earlier, is getting poked down.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And it's because also the middle inhibitor's down. So, like, look where High is. He's in the base, making sure that they can't go. And they're just splitting him up.
Meteos dives in. There's one of the disengages. They still have the Janna ultimate up, so they can do that a second time. The Equalizer goes down, but they can't follow up. So it's really just a deterrent of damage going in. He bounces back to Slicing Maelstrom to get the kill on his teammate. And it looks like they're going to be able to continue this fight on. 2 kills coming in for High as he gets the reset. They take the second inhibitor and possibly a Nexus turret with this.
Yeah, that was a 4-for-0 fight with almost no opposition. Quantic, only 20 minutes and 30 seconds into the game, draws a surrender.
And there it is. Team Astropoke calling out the surrender.